Hello and welcome to the Thinking in Tech podcast. This is our pilot episode, I suppose you can call it. My name is Dylan and I'm joined here with Baz.
Howdy.
And yeah, so I guess starting off this first episode, we can just introduce who we are, what we do, and what this show is all about. Would you like to go first, Baz?
Sure. I'm Baz. Full name is Jawed Bajar. I have been in the technical fields my whole career, uh, really since I was 12 years old. I got my hands on a computer, started programming, and took it from there. I spent my early years doing software engineering, software publishing company. I then segued into the internet industry, which was partly software, kind of initially, but merged with website design, electronic commerce systems, website hosting. Over time, became a full service internet service provider back in Colorado, and did that for 27 years. After I sold that business, I moved to Florida with my family, and we've been enjoying the endless summer here. And I have been getting back into the software business, doing consulting jobs, soft in software projects for clients, and working on some stuff on the side as well. So I'm enjoying being back in sort of what I've always considered my natural habitat of computer programming.
All right, very cool. Yeah, and I'll go over my background a little bit. I'm a little bit newer to the industry. I'm not as much as a vet as Baz is. I've been working professionally. I think this will be year 7 for me. But even since I've always had a lifelong love of technology and computers. To show my age a little bit, my first operating system was my first own computer. My first operating system was Windows XP, and before that, there's a shared family computer that had Windows 2000 and whatnot. But when I think of my first, it's Windows XP, so that shows my age. Yeah, and I really, mostly I work with like websites, web applications, phone applications. I would consider myself an applications developer. So some of the front end, the back end, and stuff that consumers would use. I got my very first start around when I was 9 and 10 in software, any kind of coding. Was I was a big video game fan growing up, still am. But at that age, it's still kind of a big thing, but it was my big thing around that age. And there's a bunch of like video game fan websites. Everyone was making their own Pokemon website and trying to make their own community. So that's I was in that group and I was like, I want to learn how to do that too. And everyone was just kind of sharing how to do an HTML and CSS. And I played with that as a hobby up until high school. And once I was in high school, I had to figure out what I want to do as a career, and then I found out
Cool.
you can actually do that as a career. So that's I haven't looked back ever since. So
Very cool.
yeah, mostly career wise, I've been working at digital agencies for the majority of my career, which is
Hmm.
we work with companies. They ask us to build them a website or application. In the last few years, I've recently joined a sports data and fantasy sports product company, which is all our own product that we sell to customers. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, other stuff I'm currently doing. I'm currently in grad school at Georgia Tech for computer science, which if I look tired, that's why. Yep, and just my main hobby outside of work and school to do with software really is the video game sides of thing. I'm a big appreciator, big collector, and player anytime I have, which isn't very much time, but when I can get to them, I do play them. And yeah, I haven't really been in the part of actually making the video games, and I've always kind of wanted to get into that. Eventually, I plan on doing it, but only so much time in the day. So one of these days. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
about it for me.
especially with two young ones in the house.
That's yeah, a little bit more on my background. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. So work full time and part time grad school. So I normally average about an hour of video game playtime a week, but I enjoy it when I can get to it.
I see your Fat Mac in the background there.
Yep, that's I got a little collection of old tech and video games.
Nice.
The Fat Mac, for anyone who doesn't know, was the first model of the no, I'm sorry, the second model of the Macintosh ever released. Um, Yeah, the 128K. This is the 512K. But any of the actual demos for the 128K were done on the 512. So
Hmm.
I got pretty fortunate. I found that for a good price on Facebook Marketplace. And you can't see it in the shop, but underneath it is actually a 10 megabyte hard drive, which
Oh,
when it first
really?
came out cost like 10 grand.
Yeah. Does that thing still work?
It does, yeah. You can boot right
Wow.
from the hard drive. Yeah, it's very cool.
Wow.
And
Okay.
there's it was owned by a business executive, and there's a lot of sensitive information no one deleted off it because no one knew better back then. So I'm not gonna do anything with it. I actually plan on deleting it. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I will delete it. I promise.
You're a good
Um,
kid.
yeah. All right. So I figure for this next part, for this first episode, we explain a little bit what listeners can expect listening to
Hmm.
thinking and tech.
Yep.
So really, this is just a fun space for me and Baz to talk about technology. We talk about new technology, new developments and advancements. Talk about some of the old school stuff and just stuff we enjoy and want to talk about. It comes from two. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's coming from two unique perspectives. Baz is a tech veteran. He's been doing this for I think 30 plus years. You said, and I'm someone that's more recently in the professional field part of it. And yeah, I also want to clarify. While we're both working software and we're both developers, we want this tech show to be a show for anybody who enjoys technology. So we'll try not to get overly technical in the nitty gritty. And if we do, we'll warn ahead of time. It's okay if you don't know what we're talking about. But I think for the most part, we're going to be try speaking layman's terms as much as possible, or just language anyone can understand.
Can we write
Um,
little thought bubbles to provide additional context for
that
folks during
that'll be good
editing?
in editing. Probably we'll probably
Yeah.
sometimes get carried away, and then we'll talk, some kind of way of programming whatever script, and then anyone's not a programmer have no idea what we're talking about. So we'll,
Right.
yeah, add a little thought bubble to clarify. Yeah, so I think every episode we do, we'll probably try picking one news story to talk about and dig into a little bit and share our thoughts and what we think about it. And talk about our careers as developers and just maybe new things that we're working on that we think were cool that we think people might enjoy hearing about, or some kind of issue maybe you ran into that maybe had a funny solution, things of that nature. I think not this first episode, but I think down the line we'll definitely probably look to get guests on the show, and they
Hmm.
can share with us from a third person what they're working on and cool things they have to share. I already have a few people I think would probably be interested in our local community in Sarasota, so that will be cool. And yeah, just whatever else we feel like talking about and feel like doing. Just it's supposed to be a fun hangout.
Yeah, we talk about this stuff all the time anyway, so we thought we'd
Yep.
share.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like we have a bunch of fun conversations, whether it's in person or at meetups or on Discord. And I kind of like what you said. I think to myself, I was like, this is funny. I think this would be entertaining to an outside audience. So we're hoping to capture a little bit of that. So yeah, let's go into the mid part of the show and let's just share a few things that we've been working on lately. So Baz, go on ahead.
Yeah, well, I have been I mentioned my side project earlier. I've been working on it now. It turns out 14 months. And technically, I started a couple months before that, but it was the sort of thing where I spent a couple hours on it during our hurricane in October of 2024, and then put it aside, picked it back up the week between Christmas and New Year's, and said, "Oh, I'm gonna dive in and do this." So the project is I had done a look around at what's available today for Apple II software emulators, i.e., um, a program that you can run on your modern computer that lets you run old software from old computers highly accurately. So that's what an emulator is. And um, I looked around, and the one I had an Apple IIe originally, and to date myself, and then I upgraded to an Apple II GS, which was the 16-bit version, and what kind of was put up to respond to the Amiga and the Atari ST coming out in kind of 85 to 86, I think. So that was Apple's response. The Mac hadn't really taken off yet. It was it was their future, but they weren't making any money from it yet. And the Apple II series really funded Apple uh, probably until the late like 89 to 90. So I didn't see any good Apple IIgs emulators that checked all the boxes I wanted in such a thing. I had this interest in this idea in going back and resuscitating some of my old projects. I wrote a lot of software actually for the 2GS back in the day. And I have boxes of hundreds and hundreds of floppy disks with my stuff on them. And I actually maintained a hard drive and kept it with me this whole time. And I had a lot of my software development tools on that. When I started that up recently, it didn't want to spin. It suffered from a problem called stiction. And the solution to that was to pick up the hard drive while it was powered on and rotate it as
Oh
fast
my
as you
gosh.
could to give it a little mechanical
Okay, get things moving
assistance
around a little bit.
it,
Yeah.
to get the mechanism unstuck. So anyway, I was able to do that. Image my all my data off that drive. I still have it because it'll be fun to try that again, in another 20 years. uh, but anyway, so I wanted to go back and work on some of that stuff. But like I said, the emulators that I found there was what looked like a really good one, but only for Windows. And I'm a Mac guy at this point, not because I'm an Apple fanboy, but just I don't like how Windows feels. I certainly don't like some of the choices they've been making in presenting and monetizing the operating system lately. So um, I said, maybe I'll just do one myself, and then I'll get exactly what I want to go through this historic journey of my other stuff. So, famous last words. I didn't necessarily expect it would take 14 months, and I'm still in the middle of it, and probably still have another solid couple months to work on it before it's, let's say, a release candidate.
Okay. I guess what I've tried is like maybe the beta version. I'm not sure if that's how you would classify it or
I
uh,
would call it alpha.
alpha. Okay.
Alpha. Let the user beware. It won't erase your hard drive, but there's things that don't quite work right, and I'm upfront about that. Uh, so it's written in C++. That was the other element of this was I had done a lot of web type development over the years. Originally in the 90s, Perl was actually the big web dev language, believe it or not. Then PHP came along, and of course, around 2010 to 12, JavaScript really sort of took over, and so now you have Node.js. And in terms of uh, getting my skills up to date, getting back into software, I did some large projects in Node. I did my paying job right now that I have is all PHP and MySQL based. But I wanted to be able to write in a systems language like C++. So I said, an emulator is going to require C++. This will be a great way for me to get up to speed on that. 14 months later, I am not up to speed on C++. It is enormous. Um, they've just added so much stuff to the language. There's so many features, there's so many ways of doing things every day, even though, my learning curve has been straight uphill. Every day I'm finding new things in the language. So it's for a new person starting out, it's quite a task to,
What a project though to choose to kind of get a handle on a language is
yeah.
rebuilding an entire like basically operating system with it. Definitely, I can imagine you give you an opportunity to use every feature of that programming language to build that out with.
Right, for sure. And what's been fascinating is this project has allowed me to touch many different areas of systems programming, right? So old computers had, video display. They have sound capabilities, for generating tones and
Mm.
music and things like that. Um, there's user interface stuff. There's storage. And with 2GS, I'm getting into, networking and simulating old modems that you would use to
Oh
dial
wow,
into bulletin board
whole another
systems
can
back
of
in the day.
worms, huh?
So this is, dealing with modern, display management, display rendering, audio generating audio streams. I'm getting a really thorough uh, tour of kind of everything you would do. Actually, to need to know to write video games, and my approach to this has been very much like uh, in the way video games are written. Uh, so so that's been interesting, and I have always wanted to, like you, write a video game, and I may do that at some point after I put this project to bed for a while.
Awesome. Yeah, I was kind of interested that you spoke about your previous experience of developing on Apple II on physical real Apple IIs. I was wondering if once your emulator gets in a state that you're happy with, would you develop new software, Apple II software from the emulator to be used on the emulator?
That's a possibility. I have a lot of thoughts about that. There's actually a tight knit community of people who are still writing um, new programs, applications, games, just like demos.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with the demo scene, but especially in older times, the before time, people would write. They would learn about the specific hardware capabilities of a platform and write software specifically to kind of showcase and exploit that.
Mm.
Uh, so there was let's see, the Amiga and the Atari had very active demo scenes. The Apple IIgs did as well. Um, and so uh, there's people still doing that kind of stuff today, just coming out with brand new things for these. Um, the Apple II came out in 1977, so almost 50 years ago. The Apple IIgs came out. Actually, this is the 40th anniversary this year. Uh, so that's a possibility. But at the same time, it might be fun to do something like I always wanted to do, but the hardware at the time didn't uh, have the capabilities in the network. And one of those things was a do you remember like text adventure games?
Yeah, just like
Yeah,
all like terminal text-based games, right?
it's all text. You
Yeah.
type commands. You want to go to the north. You type north, right? You want to pick up the object. You say get telephone or whatever, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
you interact with the world. And the visualization is entirely in your head.
Right.
Um, so there was some expansion of that concept into some of the first role playing games that were graphical. Bard's Tale was a good early one, Ultima. Um, and what I wanted to do was take that concept and apply it to the internet and let people share a world. Now, of course, this isn't novel. People have done this. Uh, but a lot of the games are not really the kind I like. They're really more about fast action and blowing stuff up. And I would like something more like the adventure games from when I was a kid. So there'd be graphics, but it would be more uh, more puzzle oriented,
Okay.
more solving problems kind of oriented. Uh, but I
Not
would
just
like
like
to
how many
have
things can I kill with my sword? Like what can I,
right,
issues, problems I can solve. Almost like maybe like
and
community town simulator kind of things.
that's right. And I loved Diablo, for example, and Diablo was there were nominally some puzzles and things to solve, but it was mostly about killing stuff, uh, and that's fine. But if I'm going to make something, it's going to be have a little different uh, approach. And then the final piece is this concept of the mud. which was multi-user dungeon. So you have a network, but the MUDs let individual users create portions of the world themselves. You could like travel through the shared universe and then enter an area that was created and managed by just another user. Uh, so, this is the age of the internet. Everyone's a content creator like us.
Right. Hey, here we
And
are.
right, instead of relying on a game company to, you know, make it, churn for 10 years and then come out with the game, like just let everybody help build the world and have it be
Yeah,
dynamic and
interesting.
changing, over time. So anyway, that's something that I've thought about for a long time and would be a lot of fun, I
No, I
think.
hope to be able to. I hope to be able to log on to it someday and check it out. I think that's a pretty unique because you're like almost building an older school kind of game, but with
Hmm.
new school kind of connections in the way players interact with each other. And I feel like that sounds pretty unique to me, and that's something I would like to play around with and check out.
All right, well, that sounds like I've got one user already. Who
Yep,
else,
there you
who
go.
else
It
wants to
starts with
sign
one.
up?
Get some early crowdfunding, some beta testers.
That's right.
So yeah, just so before we hop off on the Apple II subject, I did want to ask you one question: is of
Hmm.
all the software released on all the different versions of the Apple II that were like commercially released, or I guess even like homebrew stuff, do you have one favorite piece of software that you can point to that you can say this is my favorite?
Oh boy, see that's hard. As I've been going back through this stuff, I've been having to do, of course, a lot of quality testing, and that means playing a lot of games to make sure everything works right. And um, ones that I haven't gotten into that I really dug back in the day were like I mentioned, Bard's Tale, which is a role-playing game. Solving challenges with a party of your typical warrior, human, elf, dwarf,
It's pretty similar to
mage kind of.
Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Yeah, exactly. Um, Probably something like that. I spent the most hours on, and Bard's Tale probably in particular. I spent a lot of time on.
Okay, very cool. I've definitely heard of Bard's Tale. I've never played around with it, and I've seen like newer versions that's come out later on like
Hmm.
PlayStation 2 or PC around the time of PS2. But
Right.
I guess I should boot up the emulator and start playing a little Bard's Tale. Play the original one.
Yeah, yeah. The emulator is now at I'll say Apple II GS, maybe three-quarters done, but it
Hmm.
appears to be enough to play Bard's Tale. So
Okay, and Bard's Tale is a GS title.
they had Apple II versions as
Okay,
well, but the GS one is a lot better.
gotcha. Very cool. So if anybody wanted to try out the emulator in its current state, is there somewhere they can go to download that and play around with it?
Yeah, you can go to GitHub. .com/Jawade Bajar 2, and maybe we can have the URL appear in the
Yep, we can put those
somewhere
in the show
associated with the video.
notes. Yeah, so look below this our feed and click it and download it and try it out. There's some instructions there. I was able to get it running, and honestly, if you have any troubles with it, I'm sure Bowser would be happy to help anyone out who wants to try it
Oh
out.
yeah, I'll give you tech support at 10 p.m. if you just pop on the Discord or
Great
open
customer
an
service.
issue or open an issue on the GitHub as well.
Alrighty, and is there a place that people can go and maybe watch the development of this emulator or watch somebody play around with it on a platform
Nice.
like YouTube?
Thank you for teeing that up. Yeah. So I have a YouTube channel called Bajar Codes, and I think that's the URL is youtube.com/@ Bajar Codes, and that I'm not one of these pump a video out every day guys, but when I have something interesting to talk about or some progress to share, I'll put together a video. And my last one actually hit 3,000 whole views.
Oh,
I was
nice.
quite impressed.
That's good. For Apple II emulator, you got that kind of audience. That's awesome to see. I like that.
Yeah, I think mixing it with the coding aspect. Sometimes I'll actually go through and show coding process on certain things I'm trying to work on, and that perhaps it's helping to bring in a broader, more modern audience. But it's mostly a labor of love.
That's awesome. Yeah, make sure to go check that out, and we'll have that link in the podcast notes below as well. So, yep, for the next part of the show, I thought I'd share something that I've been working on for a couple years, and it's not, specifically a piece of software, even really tech, at all, but it's a kind of a local online community that we've built together on a Discord server. And yeah, so this how this came about was when I started as a programmer. We're both in the Sarasota County area. For anyone who doesn't know, that's like an hour below Tampa. It's a smaller city, so there wasn't not really a big tech scene, especially 7 years ago. There was almost no tech scene here. I describe it as a city full of remote workers that work for companies not within the city. So,
And
but weirdly enough,
retirees. Yeah.
yes, and retirees. But I did my first job was actually at one of the few places that actually hired like coders and programmers, which was a small local agency. And the two other developers there were the only other developers I knew in the entire city. But I was like, there had to be more other programmers and tech people in the city. So I was like, let me just start a community Discord server. Let me share it on Reddit and with anyone I know that would be interested in share it. And yeah, about 3 years later now, we have over 200 members, which is way more than I thought I'd ever get. I didn't know how long I'd run it for. I'd spin up for a few months and close it maybe, but it's still going, and there's lots of really great daily activity and a lot of excuse me, a lot of great activity, a lot of great tech discussion. We have different parts of the Discord server where we can just joke around in the general off topic, or we have specific channels for like talking specifically about artificial intelligence, things like mobile development, game development, really any kind of piece of technology or programming. And we've even actually really expanded beyond programming. We have a lot of like system engineers or cybersecurity people in there. So it's really become a amazing like local community of tech people. And it's really amazing to see how it's turned into. I'll kind of compare it to like a digital happy hour and just online
Hmm.
space where tech folk can goof around with each other, but also have really strong tech conversations. And it has that I met youth through there at first, and it has that kind of
Right.
magic where you meet the people on a local online community, but then you come together in person. We kind of not exactly partner, but we many of us in the Discord server will also find out about like local developer lunches, and we all get together a couple times a month, just get around a big table and have some lunch and talk some tech. We find out different like local events like the Sarasota Tech event, and we'll go to that. Even though I missed last night's one. And yeah, it's been a really great resource to bring a local community of tech people together who otherwise would have just never met each other and not known other developers in the area. And I hear that from new members all the time that join. They say, I didn't know there were other developers here. I didn't know any other developers here. So it's really been great to be able to have that for myself and other people that then will use that and find their community. And I think one of my favorite things about it is it's not algorithm based. It's not like LinkedIn where people are putting on a show or they're putting on a face to try to get likes or comments or views or money out of it. I'm not making any money out of it. Like the value it has is the social aspect of it and the community aspect. So there's no kind of rankings for anybody or anything. We just all kind of go and chat about what we're interested in. And I think there's not a lot of spaces like that on the internet left, and it's nice that there's still a place like Discord that has that, or these local,
Hmm.
like it's almost like the new version of like web forums, almost like an instant messaging web forum, which um, yeah, I think it's great. It's really awesome to see how it's grown. And I highly recommend anyone who lives in a smaller city or town that they don't know any other developers or tech people, go ahead and make a server. And there's probably at least a Reddit page for the area you live in, and let people know to come and join it and give it some time. And it'll build up, and you'll know your local people. And I think one important part is making it local, like it's a Sarasota
Hmm.
tech developer Discord. Because if you just go on a regular developers Discord, it's almost overinflated, and there's so much conversation, so much chat. You don't really have a chance to make connections with individual people and really get connected to a community. So I think, and then it's a lot harder to meet in person. So having it be a server dedicated to a specific geographical area, I think is really part of the magic.
I agree with everything you said, and would just like to add on that, um, especially over the last 5 years, since COVID and everyone, first being kind of sequestered into their homes for a while, and then the push, then the great shift to remote work, it's very difficult to get real social interaction, right? You can't replace um, being in a room with somebody with typing on a computer. It's better than nothing, but it's not the same thing at all. And to be able to go out and have lunch with peers, um, whether they're just business peers in a different industry, with some of the other events around here that kind of intersect with, and we co-market with the Discord channel, uh, and people from the Discord channel. They're not just a faceless bot, that types stuff. They're real people, and there's real connections, and I think that's very important, especially for people who do work from home, as you do part time and I do full time. Uh, to have that, and for us not to lose, that personal connection.
Exactly. Well said. And I'm full time from home, so I definitely
Oh, okay.
need that. Yeah. So I definitely feel that, like that in person interaction is definitely so valuable. And I imagine me a lot less happy if I didn't have a group of local, like minded, people that work in the same space as I can go and, have a beer with, it counts
I
for a
th-
lot.
yeah, and it helps that everyone who's been participating is professional, and doesn't turn the place into a circus, either in person or on the or on the channel. So we've attracted a great group of folks.
We sure have. Yeah. And, we have, you're one of the admins. We have a few admins, but everyone's pretty well behaved. We have a few bots sometimes trying to sell some AI programs, but besides that, we haven't had any issues. Alrighty. So, yeah, so that's one cool thing I wanted to share. Next part, we'll talk about something that's been in the news lately, on the show. I think it'd be interesting to share some recent news happenings and get our opinions on it. And it actually has to do with Discord, kind of ironically enough. Recently, Discord kind of shared their updated policy for age verification, introducing some kind of age verification to their platform. And once they announced this, there was just a huge blowback on Discord users and communities at Discord being really unhappy about it. And yeah, I guess we just share our opinions about it. First thing else, from my understanding, the only age verification that it's requiring is for like adult oriented servers, which could have content that would be appropriate for anyone under 18, which is why they would require the age verification. But there's still, even with that said, there's still a lot of blowback and people are really unhappy with it, especially from the Gen Z generation. Go anywhere on like Reddit gaming pages or anything, and everyone's just like, jump off ship, don't Discord, don't want to be a part of it anymore. I think a big thing is too, like, they don't like how they're using AI to determine what
Mm.
makes a server adult content or not. And I think they have some privacy worries about that. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So what do you think, Baz?
Maybe you can explain or describe how they're intending to determine age.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the way they determine age, I believe they're doing it's facial scans or ID scan, if I'm correct. So either one of those, and we hear a facial scan that kind of weirds people out, and showing any kind of like government ID, you're like, who's seeing this? Who am I sharing this with? Who's verifying this?
Right.
So that's another fair point, I suppose, why people might be a little uneasy about it.
Right. Of course, I can just say, I'm the computer mouse man. Here's my face. Uh, it's a tough nut.
Yeah.
I think most people would agree that not exposing kids to inappropriate material is something that most people would agree to. I have a
Yep.
12-year-old daughter, and I worry about that a fair bit. Um, she's pretty savvy. She might have only been 7 or 8, and she came bursting into the living room one evening from her room, and she very worried and upset. And we asked her what was wrong, and she kind of got out that she had been watching a video, and there was some inappropriate language in the video,
Mm.
and we said, what did you do? She's like, I turned it off. Okay, well, great. you know, if there's something you're not comfortable with, you don't understand, turning it off is absolutely the right thing to do. Um, that said, there's a lot of horrible stuff on the internet, and there's a lot of horrible people on the internet. And they could be, you don't know where they are. They could be in any country in the world. They could be, you know, professionals. There's, videos you can go find where folks will bust people who, are inappropriate with kids on the internet. So um, the challenge is, they're trying to solve this, through purely technical means. Those are always going to have limitations, I think. Um, and I would admit to being a little uneasy about the privacy concerns of, showing my government issued ID you know, um, to a bot.
Or Discord contracts out
Yeah.
to approve that, or a bot, right?
Yeah. And where does that go? And what happens to that information?
Yep.
Is that, um, everyone assumed Amazon was safe, and then 5 people were arrested for inappropriately listening in on Alexa conversations.
Yep.
Amazon employees. So it's one thing to say, you are concerned about privacy and take it seriously. It's another thing to actually make that happen inside a company. Um, I don't know. At root, it comes down to the individuals, and doing your best with, I think, young people to help them develop appropriate filters. Um, and we have the same challenge in at the other end, I think, of the age spectrum, right? There's older folks who are being taken advantage of
It's
through
true. Yeah, that's a good point.
internet scams, and you can't. There's not a technical solution to that either. You just have to educate. I think. Um, do I oppose them trying? No, and I think they'll figure it out. I will say I'm happy that my daughter has shown no interest in Facebook whatsoever, because
That's
Facebook
good.
is horribly
Yeah.
horribly managed. I There's full grown adults that I'm connected to who don't get led astray on a regular basis there. So
Yeah.
um,
I
I
hope when my daughters are older, they are the same, or Facebook just isn't. Like, I'm sure it'll be a thing, but there'll hopefully be better platforms that are better managed that they'll be interested in if I'm lucky.
right. Maybe AI. Well, there's this general problem of identity on the internet. Um, you don't know who somebody is on the internet. Um, this is a something where um, businesses on the internet don't know who's buying. Fraud is a huge problem on the internet. People are using internet services to steal houses. They're like, okay, well, because when COVID happened, there was, if you wanted to buy a house, you weren't allowed to have a closing in person, like we've done, for hundreds of years. So they developed rapidly this concept of an online, notary, an online document execution. Well, faking identities through these services, these online services, has allowed people to steal houses.
That's so I haven't heard that. That's so interesting. Is that still around post COVID? Like that still
Yes.
services? Okay.
Yeah,
When I bought my house, I had to go into a big building and sit in front of lawyers and sign 30 different papers. I didn't know I could have done it from home.
that's the normal way to do it. But our home buyer, or our home builder, I should say, we were the buyers. Uh, they let us do a remote closing. We did go to, let's see, I think we did go to an office, right, and do that. But the other parties were in Tampa or something. So a lot of it's still done remotely. Or a lot of folks will offer that as an option. Right? Maybe you're out of state, right? Uh, so anyway, identity on the internet is kind of a big problem generally. And while you may not want every internet service to require some kind of positive identity, having uh, some secure way to prove your identity for certain types of transactions people might want to do online is probably something our industry needs to come up with.
Yeah, almost like not like each individual company have their own way of verifying, but if there's just one source that could somehow be trusted, that I don't know, but it's like also how do they earn that trust? I guess that just it's a big question. It's like how do we do it correctly? Like we'd benefit from a system being in place, but that's probably above my pay scale. How do they figure out how to do that?
Yeah, it's a web of trust, and you have to start just like secure website certificates. This is some infrastructure, and I promise not to get too geeky, but almost every website you go to today, the link starts with HTTPS. This is
hmm
a protocol, a way of talking on the internet that encrypts, protects by obscuring the information that's being sent back and forth. At root is also a mechanism to identify that the particular server that's sending you that information is actually the people who own that are supposed to own that website. And this is done through a certificate, they call it. Um, and that whole system depends on uh, a handful of companies that people trust not to hand out fake credentials, right? And that's the only reason that works, because anybody can make a certificate, but how do I know? So how do I know that the certificate is trustable? Well, because I trust the root, the origin
Right.
of that. So maybe there's a role for government here. Maybe the driver's license office, as much as everybody likes to dish on them. Maybe you can get a digital, a secure digital identifier.
That's an interesting idea because I was thinking like maybe government, would be the one to handle this, but then there's like how much untrust people have in the government. I think at this point people still trust the DMV pretty well, so maybe if they could get something going on there, that could be a solution.
Right. Well, they do require enough documentation that they're pretty sure you're who you say you are when you get a driver's license, right? Uh, but ultimately, it's that you could choose to accept any credentialer you wanted, I guess. Uh, but for most people and for most purposes, showing a driver's license is the way to go. So if you could have something like that where you know, you could prove you're an adult. Maybe you could limit it to say, okay, I'm going to disclose this information, but only disclose my age to
Right.
the
It's
service.
almost
You don't get the whole
almost
thing. It's just, I'm just showing you this little part that you care
yeah.
about right
I'm
here.
thinking like, like a chip reader like on credit cards, that's encrypted information but gives
Yeah, right.
information they need. If there's a version that like on a driver's license that could somehow easily be tapped on a device, and then you can trust Apple or whoever to move that information to whatever platform to get that verification. That's
Hmm.
probably something people might be more comfortable with.
Right. We've taken lately a couple of positive steps in this regard. I see a lot of websites moving to what they call passkeys instead of passwords, and this is, rooted in encryption, cryptography technology, and it's better than passwords, which
I still haven't played around. I always click close whenever those modals come up because I'm like, I have my password management system I'm happy with, but I should
yeah,
probably try out the latest and greatest.
there have been a few sites that are like, we are not doing passwords anymore. You
Really?
have to do
Okay.
a
Just pass.
passkey, and
Interesting.
that pushed me into it to because you're right. You get comfortable with a particular way of doing a thing, and you understand well the boundaries, right? The security risk of the way you're doing it, and you don't want to change because it's work. You got to actually do some thinking about, what's the risk of this new thing, and am I, comfortable with that? So I don't know. We won't solve anything today, or
We
even this
won't.
year.
And it seems like it'll probably be a messy road there, but I think it's probably a better thing than not that people are thinking about this and trying to move into getting a system set up where we can protect underage users from content
Yep,
that's not made for them.
for sure.
Alrighty. Well, I guess we'll move into the wrapping up phase. Something I thought would be fun to include in these episodes is a little blurb on this day in history, what happened, in the past on this day. So today we are recording this February 20th, 2016, and 13 years ago today, on February 20th, 2013, Sony officially announced the PlayStation 4. So that was 13 years ago somehow.
Oh dear.
I feel like I know. I feel like the PS4 came out like 4 years ago. It's what even is time? Alrighty. Well, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for joining, and I look forward to the next time. Yep. So that's
Me
our
too.
show. Thank you for listening to the Thinking in Tech podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to follow us on your podcast service of choice and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. Or if you're not, go over there and subscribe anyway. We appreciate if you are on YouTube to click the like button and leave a comment. That's how we know people are enjoying what we're doing, and it helps us get new listeners to discover us. And also, just a little key point, the views expressed in this podcast are completely of our own and do not reflect or represent the views of any potential employers. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you around next time.
Bye bye.
Having to do this again because I messed it up in the recording, but the views and comments shared within this recording are entirely of our own and do not reflect the views or opinions of any current, past, or future employers. This podcast was hosted by Dylan Ramsey and Wade Bazar and was edited and produced by Dylan Ramsey. Subscribe on the podcast platform of your choice for future episodes. Thank you for listening.